Hi guys, Kayla here, coming to you with my dear friend Jamie. She is the director of yoga instruction at Capital Fitness in the Yoga Sangha at Capital Fitness, and I am the director of personal training over at the gym. We are both yoga teachers, and we're here today to give you a 30-minute yin-yang practice. Yin-yang is a class on our schedule that is a combination of dynamic movement meant to open up your mobility and reset the nervous system, paired with yin postures, which are poses that we settle into for an extended length of time, usually a couple minutes at a time, so that your nervous system has the opportunity to relax. So we'll do a little moving today, we'll do some steady holding today. If you have yoga props like blocks and blankets and things, have those nearby. If you don't have any of those things, not a big deal. All you're going to need is a chair of any kind. These are yoga chairs, but any sturdy chair that you have at home will do. So grab your chair, and we're going to start in child's pose. Knees wide with your big toes together and forehead to the ground, like what Jamie is doing to my right. If child's pose is no good for your knees or your back, your shoulders, if for any reason folding forward in this way is no good for you, feel free to take a nice tall seat instead on the floor or on your chair, or you could lie fully prone on your belly with your hands stacked and your forehead on the ground. So I'll start there, and we're going to start with a couple of minutes of just like easy breathing and easy movement to drop into the body. So regardless of where you start, take a couple of long inhales and a couple of long exhales. Something I like to do when I'm centering is to follow the path of the inhale. And by that I mean, with your mind's eye, be conscious of how the inhale enters your nose and the way it floats over your soft palate, and then eventually down into the collarbones and the beginnings of your lungs to whatever depth feels good for you. So follow the inhale a couple of times and feel that the exhale is leaving you really soft and relaxed. Let's take 3 more full cycles here. 3 inhales, 3 exhales. When you feel like you're ready for movement, we'll start to peel ourselves off the ground. So child's pose, nice and easy. You'll pull forward, 2 hands and knees. If you're coming from your belly or from a seat, you'll shift to hands and knees as well. And what I'd love for you to do before we go anywhere else is to step your hands way out front. I'm thinking 14, 16, 18 inches, so that with your seat high, you can dip your forehead toward the earth. It may or may not touch down. And take a long exhale at the bottom. And then the inhale will bring you back up just part way. So leave your hands where they are. Think of inflating the middle and upper back, almost cat pose, but not quite. And then on the exhale, you'll sink again, forehead, chest, chin toward the floor, maybe to the floor. The inhale raises you partway out. Think about fluffing the upper back, making some space. And then One last time, exhale, sink the forehead. On the inhale, I'll have you come back up, take hands beneath shoulders again, so that you're back to a regular table, and allow a few cats and cows. So the inhale raises your heart, lifts the tailbone, and the exhale curls you the other way. Back and forth between the two for 3 or 4 cycles. If you feel all right with closing your eyes, do that so that you can feel out the internal landscape that you are working with today. One more big inhale. And exhale. After that, friends, we'll go back to neutral. I'm interested in getting you off your knees. So go ahead and turn over. You can flip onto your back side. Your chair for this time can be out of the way, off of your mat. And we're gonna lie down with knees bent and feet on the floor. Okay, take a moment right here. Arms down by your sides, feet at hips width distance. And for the first moment, just sense the back of your body on the floor. Feel how we have changed the circumstances. Make a point to follow the inhale. From here, I'll have you drop your navel into your body, belly button into the back by just a little bit, and then from that sense of strength in the core, lift your hips up off the ground any amount, knowing it doesn't have to be the highest bridge that you've ever done. Just enough to know that you're up there, and you feel the upper back and the tops of the shoulders broaden into the floor. You take an inhale up here. And when you exhale, I'll have you roll one vertebra at a time back down to the mat, feeling that your lumbar has lengthened as you meet the floor. When you get to the bottom, relax for a moment, and then slide your right heel forward along the ground until your right leg is straight for me. And feel that that leg is really strong, almost as though you're standing your right foot on the baseboard opposite you. From there, left knee comes up into chest so that you've got one thigh pulled toward you and one thigh reaching away. If you feel the urge to lift your forehead up toward your left knee, feel free. Find a sense of squeeze here, and then inhale to relax back down. Left foot meets the mat, right heel slides back into the start. Left heel slides out so we can do the other side. Bring your right knee up into your chest. Squeeze forehead toward knee. Right foot comes back down to the floor. Plant there. Slide left heel back in, and then we go for a second bridge. Arms down by your sides, navel to spine, and the lift of the seat up top. Let's take 2 breaths up there. On the exhale, work your way back down. One vertebra at a time until you find yourself on the mat again, and then we'll slide the right heel out, flex that foot, bring the left knee up into your chest. Same thing, if you feel the urge to raise your forehead, curl up toward your own shin, do that. If you prefer to leave your head on the ground, that's fine. And then left foot comes down to the mat, bring the right heel in to match the left. Slide the left heel out, lengthening along your thigh and hugging right knee into chest when you feel ready. Option to curl up, feel length in the back body, flex in the left foot, and then back down, both your head and your feet returning to bridge. One last time, arms down by the sides. Drop the belly in, lift hips off the ground. Feel a decent squeeze in the glutes. Big inhale up top. And when you exhale, make your way back down to the floor. Take a moment on the floor to sense. Follow the inhale and surrender the exhale. All right, friends, when you're feeling ready, both knees up into your chest. Give your thighs a good hug. Maybe rock hip to hip or elbow to elbow, something that feels nice. You could also take it to a happy baby if you have the freedom to raise your feet and rock side to side in that fashion. Feel free. Feeling that in either scenario, your arms are strong and helping to support you here. Feeling that your head and your neck are loose on the floor. When you're feeling good and ready, we're going to tip this whole thing over to the side. Off to the right, generally speaking, is where we go, so that you may peel yourself up off the ground and reorient yourself so that your chair is available. I'm going to have you swing it around to the front of the mat with the pan of the seat facing you and at least 2 of your forelegs on the mat so that your chair doesn't go anywhere. If you have a yoga blanket, I'm using my sweatshirt here today. If you have a yoga blanket, you could use it to pad the right knee. Left foot is going to come forward to the outer aspect of your chair. Make it so that your left arch is in line more or less with that front leg of the chair. Left heel in line with the front leg of the chair. 2 hands on the seat so that you have this opportunity to drop your hips forward and down. That means that your left knee is tracking a little bit to the left, while your right leg is nice and heavy behind you. I'm gonna have you drop your forearms onto the seat of your chair, a lot like lizard pose, but with a chair rather than blocks or hands to the floor. You'll lengthen through the back of the neck. You're not necessarily dropping your head all of the way. It's just enough to know that the space at the base of your skull is really easy, spacious, and free. So take a breath or 2 there. Feeling that the hips are heavy. That your pelvis can freely drop forward and down. Hands to the edges of your chair so you have a little breathing room to move. I'm going to have you pull your hips back so that most of your weight is in your right knee. Flex through the left foot. Think of it as sort of an informal half split, which means that you can bow to any degree that you like, stay soft in the left knee, and feel possibly something in those hamstrings and the calf of your left leg. Just a moment right there before we inhale and return to the lunge. Either hands or forearms on the seat of the chair, hips drop forward and down, and a moment of lift in the heart so that rather than bowing forward, you have a touch of Anjaneyasana here, this low lunge with a lifted sternum. Next exhale takes you back to that informal half split. And then you return to the lunge, knowing that you are welcome to keep your hands on the chair, or if you're looking to add a little life, a little vigor, a little yang to it, you can take that right arm up in the air, the thumb pointed back behind yourself, so that maybe there's a vague side bend to this whole shape, lengthening along the right side body from kneecap all the way up to wrist. Take an inhale up here. And then exhale, right hand to that chair and hips back one last time for your very informal half split. Bow as much or as little as is right for you today. Big inhale, big exhale. From there, we pull forward, mostly for support from the chair. So you can swap your left knee for your right knee, swinging back. Right foot comes up, again, to the outer aspect of your right chair. Take a moment to decide whether you want heel or arch aligned with that front leg of the chair, and dip into that momentary lizard hold. This is the one where we went forearms to the seat of the chair, hips moving forward and down. And for this one, no back bend. So chin drawn down ever so slightly. Opportunity to lengthen the back of the neck. To follow the inhale. And surrender the exhale. Next inhale, eyes open, hands on your chair so that you can pull back to the first of 3 half splits. You roll onto the heel of the right foot to some degree. Bow forward any amount, small bend in the right knee. The inhale takes you forward to the upright version of our lunge, Anjaneyasana, which just means that your left knee is on the floor, your heart is lifted. There's a feeling of drop for the hips. You pull back when you're good and ready, lengthening along the posterior chain, the back side of your right leg. Inhale to drop forward, lift up. Exhale, pull back. Inhale, come forward. And pause here, recognizing that this is the repetition where you could, if you so choose, raise the left arm all the way up and out of the left hip. Take a small side bend toward the right side of your mat. Left hand back to the chair. Hips pull back just enough that you can move your right foot back to where it was. Knees together. Tuck your toes behind yourself. So now we're kneeling, both shins. By tucked, I mean the toes are pulled underneath, and as you sit back, you can leave your hands on your chair so that the momentum of the pose for a little while is really more forward than it is backward. That means that a small percentage of your weight is seated back toward your heels. You can elect to stay right here for something that is more mild beneath the toes and in the soles of the feet. For others, you might choose to walk your hands down to the floor in front of your chair, palms touching the ground. And for still more, you might choose to walk your hands back to your thighs and bring a little bit more weight into the seat itself. Whether or not you go fully upright is up to you. Spend just another 4 or 5 breaths here. As you hang out here, check in with your teeth, your tongue, your jaw, floor of your mouth, and ask yourself if there is any softening available to you. In your own time, eyes open, you'll shift weight forward out of the feet. Take a moment to tap the feet to the top of the mat, work out anything that you're feeling in the toes, and then I'll have you friends switch to a nice tall seat. If you have a blanket available, you could sit up on a folded blanket. We're taking feet toward the chair, knowing that it's going to be an option in just a moment. Right foot extended out underneath the seat of the chair. Left heel folded in toward your inner right thigh, and therefore a little bit of a turn to the left. Right? Before we get anywhere else, before we go anywhere else, take a turn to the left. That means right hand to your folded knee, left hand behind you, nice tall spine. You turn all the way around, however far that is for you, and look past your left shoulder to feel some height. After that, you'll spin back to the center, knowing that as you return to your right leg, you might square yourself off a little bit more to that chair, okay? Big inhale here. Let's go 2 arms overhead, sit nice and tall. And then exhale to bow forward in the direction of that chair, and this is where you can choose whether or not you're going to use it. You'll step that chair back toward yourself so that your hands, your forearms, and possibly your forehead have a resting place here. That means that the sole of your right foot is somewhere near the back rung of that chair, assuming that yours has one. You give your forehead a place to rest here as you flex at the hips, stretch through the length of the right leg, which, by the way, could have a bend to it, and allow for some weight to come into the left femur. So we're going to hang out here for a while. This is where our more dynamic yang practice is going to give way to the yin of things. So trust that you have a couple of minutes here on this first side to settle into the posture and allow for it to evolve over that time. This is the premise of yin. We find a posture, a structure with support if necessary, and we elect to linger in that structure, in that posture for an extended length of time so that the connective tissues of your body have an opportunity to respond. Which means that you might be walking up to a tricky threshold where there's a lot of sensation, a lot of stretch, maybe some monkey mind going on while we hang out in stillness. I encourage you to tiptoe up to each of those things, the sensation, the monkey mind, the busyness, and to simmer in the reality of whatever that is for you, and then whenever it's possible, return to the path of the inhale so that you can begin to taper away all distraction, or on some days, some distraction. The only exception to the rule here is if you are in legitimate pain. We do not encourage you to push through that. If you find that somewhere in the middle of this hold an adjustment becomes necessary, I encourage you to take that adjustment. Maybe you have to back off just 5 to 10% so that you can sustain the life of the pose and continue to enjoy the work without feeling as though you're going to risk injury. You trust your gut. According to what it has to say, you may or may not stay within the full depth of the pose. Now, the other thing to know about yin is that as we hang out here, let's say for another minute or so, is that the posture may evolve over the course of the hold. So if the chair was lovely at the beginning, but it is now impeding your ability to enjoy the evolution of the posture, recognize that you could slide it out of the equation. I think that's the beauty of the chair, that it could, in theory, go away, so that it is out of your way for a little bit more of this fold. Now, holding onto the calf of the right leg would be more than fine. Like we did in the lizard pose earlier, find a little space at the base of the skull so the back of the neck is not crunching or straining to be here. And if you feel like for the last 5 or 6 breaths here, you want to move further in, feel free to do that. Some of us may have an ankle or a foot available. If you feel like you want to go in that direction, you can. If you feel like you want to take your forehead to or toward your knee, you can do that too. Let's take 2 breaths more. Next inhale will slowly peel you away from that folded leg. When you get to the top, I'll have you re-extend the left side so that you've got both feet out front for a moment. 2 hands behind yourself, thumbs can be splayed out. And with your feet about the width of the mat, I'll have you spin your right hip up in the air. Take a moment here. It's not really a pose, just unofficial freeing. Left hip does the same thing, so you roll up away from the ground in that left back side. Nice. Do one more, both sides. Big inhale, pops the right hip. Through the center, big exhale, takes the left. And then back to the middle, friends. Extend your left leg long. The tricky part of yin is knowing that you're in for that hold on the other side, so, right, have a sip of water, shake things off a little bit. Support your seat and or your right knee as you see fit, right? Left and right are often different. We'll start with a twist, so that'll be right hand behind you, left hand to your knee, turning to the space behind yourself, looking back over right shoulder. Nice tall spine. And then back to the center. Sort out your seat so that you feel pretty square to the chair. Right, bring your chair back into play so that it is not too far away. And then 2 arms overhead on the next inhale, big and tall. Maybe look up, a little lift in the heart before we go. And then exhale to bow forward. Remember, we're starting with the seat of the chair. So take your forearms or hands to that space. Could also be the forehead holding onto the structure of your chair, the frame. And you start your seated forehead of the knee here. When I'm practicing yin, I like to say that the first couple of moments, the first full minute of a yin posture is for settling in. So that's where you are ironing out the logistics of your setup. You're deciding where you would like for the chair to be. You're deciding where you would like for your hands to be. In this case, you're deciding how much or how little bend in the left knee. And you're arranging all of this so that you have a fighting chance at hanging out for a little while. It could be at this point in the practice you're feeling more grounded, a little bit more steady than when we began. So if you feel like you have that bandwidth available, that mental space available, perhaps in addition to breathing well, you start to spend a little of this time meditating on what it is you can bring to the table for other people today, what it is you can bring to the table in terms of support for others. remember that the premise of the practice, whatever the style might be, is to show up on the mat, certainly in service of yourself, but also in service of the other people around you and the people that you don't connect with in this world. There's a mantra that goes, Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. If you've been to any amount of yoga classes, you may have heard it in song or in speech. And it translates to something like, may all beings be happy and free. And may the thoughts, words, and actions of my own life somehow contribute to that happiness and that freedom for all. So when you find yourself grounded in your own body, grounded in your own work, allow yourself a pat on the back, because that in and of itself is a big deal. And then spend at least some of your time meditating on how you bring that goodness out to the world in whatever way you can. We're looking toward the last minute of hold here, so if you are wanting to move further in, you can by sliding your chair forward, taking a hold of your left calf instead of the chair itself. You can also stay with your props, that would be fine. Remember that postures are never about depth, rather about walking up to that line of sensation and surrendering any resistance you may feel, physical or other ways. If you haven't already, check in with the base of the skull and take another 3 breaths here. Next inhale, you'll work your way up out of that left leg. Sit nice and tall and re-extend right thigh to match the left. 2 feet on the earth. I'll give you a couple options here. You can go hands behind yourself for those hips that swing side to side. You could also bend the knees and go for reverse table if you feel as though you want to go in that direction. If you go for reverse table, press down through the heels, lift up through the glutes, feel some heat in the heart, maybe drop your head back. Whatever feels nice to you for an inhale and exhale. When you're feeling ready, seat back to the ground so that you can set yourself up for rest. You might want to grab a sweater, some blankets, some socks for your Shavasana. A couple of options for you. You can go full Shavasana with your legs laid out like Jamie, feet to about the hips with distance or the width of the mat. Arms next to yourself. Recognizing that if lying flat on your back in this way is not so great for you in any way, feel free to modify as you see fit. If you prefer to lie with your knees bent, or if you'd like to take a nice tall seat, you could do that. Alternative to full Shavasana, you could use your chair one last time, calves thrown up onto the seat of your chair or sofa or any surface in your home. A chance to scoot your seat toward the legs of the chair. Bring yourself down to the floor like so. And take the first few minutes to settle in the same way we did for seated forward fold, Janu Shirshasana. Maybe rock your head side to side a handful of times to ensure looseness in the neck and soft shoulders that are willing to settle down into the ground. It's here that I'll conclude our practice together today, friends. I encourage you to lie here in the Shavasana for a couple of minutes, several minutes, or if you have the luxury, a good long time. If you have questions or concerns, please reach out to myself or Jamie. We are here to represent your yoga studio and your gym while we navigate the changing landscape. And until the next time, have a beautiful day. Thanks for your time, and namaste.